All right, we are live. Hello and welcome to EduMatch Tweet and Talk number 33. We are very happy to have you here. So follow along with us on Google Plus at bit.ly/tweettalk33, as well as on Twitter with the hashtag EduMatch. Speaking of EduMatch, if you want to be the featured EduMatch person of the day, just check us out at our website at edumatch.education and just fill out the Google form that is located there. And that will give us all your information to get you connected and to shout you out on Twitter all day long. So tonight we're going to be talking about alternatives to reach all the learners in our classroom. So very, very excited about this. We have a great panel and a fantastic moderator, so I'm going to kick it over to him now. So Ron, thank you so much.
Hey, thank you so much, Sarah, and it is a pleasure to be on EduMatch. So anyway, I would like to invite you guys to learn who our wonderful panelists are. We're going to start with Heather. Heather, if you would introduce yourself, and we'll move forward from there.
Okay. My name is Heather Gauck. I have been teaching special education resource for 22 years in West Michigan and in an urban setting, Grand Rapids Public Schools.
Great. Awesome. Rachel, would you share?
Good afternoon and evening, everyone. My name is Rachel Pierson. I am currently serving in a very small district compared to Heather's. We are in a rural area. We have about 650 students in our K-12 building, and I am currently serving as a STEM teacher.
Phenomenal. Susan, would you introduce yourself? Maybe. Well, what we're going to do like this, Susan, don't be offended. I'm going to bounce to Valerie and see if Valerie could introduce herself, then we'll come back to Susan.
Hi, everyone. I'm Valerie Lewis, an educator here in Gwinnett County, Georgia. I've been an educator for about 15 years, and I work with 10th and 11th grade language arts special ed students.
Awesome. Susan, it looks like you're ready to go because I know you were changing devices when we were first getting started.
I'm
Susan.
here.
All right, Susan, if you'd introduce yourself.
I work for the Office of Library Media in Prince George's County. I am working at getting maker spaces into libraries across the county. We have a couple up and running, and they're all trials, but a lot of fun. And I've presented a couple times on what we're doing, so I sort of have my act together a little bit.
You guys got your act together. And I apologize because I just took the mic and started running with Sarah. I don't know why as many times that I'm speaking in front of public that I'm like nervous as a wet dog today. So I apologize to everybody. I didn't introduce myself. I'm Ron Madison in Flint, Michigan is where I teach. I've been in education for 23 years. 18 of those years was elementary inclusion special ed. So I got to slide in and out of everybody's classroom. Then I went to doing extra things, one-on-one coaching and things like that around the state. Now I work for the ISD in Genesee County, and so I get to again travel all throughout the county, and we have other sites. Last year we had 14 sites throughout the state, so I would travel up to 5 hours to get to a school site to help them out. This year we have a site up in our UP, which is about an 8-hour trip one way to get there. So those are some of the things that I get to do, and I just love to be a part of this. So thank you guys so much. Let's see if we can get started with what are some of our questions. And the first question is, what are some of the alternative or other traditional methods that you guys are using to reach your learners? Who'd like to get excited and get going? I can call you, but I want to just see if we get... Valerie looks like she smiled first, so we're going to bounce to her, and then we'll go from there. I read body language. 80% is nonverbal, guys.
Well, I will say that the alternative to learning in my classroom is connecting other teachers and other students within our classroom. So currently right now, Annabelle Gonzalez, who is outside of North Carolina, she and I are working on what we call blog buddies. And so we have our kids blogging through Blogger, and we connect our students. So she has ESL students, and my students are resource special ed students. And at first she thought that you know what, I don't know. My kids speak, English to a minimal. And I said, well, you'll be surprised, my special ed kids, if you see their writing, you think they speak English to a minimal as well. But with the connections that they are making, the kids are so excited to be able to comment on each other's blogs, have an authentic audience, and then the relationships that they're forming, they're realizing that they have so many commonalities between themselves and these students that they've never met before that live in North Carolina. So for me, that's one alternative to the learning situation or the traditional classroom that I think is phenomenal and working, beyond my wildest dreams. I'm so excited to be doing this with Annabelle.
Awesome. Susan. See, I am reading body language right. I'm feeling good about it. I was like, go to Susan.
There you go. So I'm not in a classroom, but I have hooked up with a couple of schools and classes, and mainly in the library, but also with a couple of classroom teachers. So why don't you repeat the question again before I go off on a tangent? I'm sorry. Say what?
No, you're fine. If you could share with us some alternative or other ways that you're doing traditional methods to reach your learners.
Okay. So one of the things that we're doing, and basically it's within the confines of what we're calling a makerspace, is using code.org, and we're bringing in some of the literacy pieces of the kids. This is a huge ESOL population, and I'm not sure that they really were struggling with story elements, because when we started doing it and started talking about it, they pretty much had it. I don't know if it's just the testing piece or what, but in code.org, just in course 1, you can get to a point where you can have them defend their story elements in a little coded story that they wrote. So that's one of the exciting things that we're working on right this minute. I can talk about some of the other makerspace stuff we're doing, but the code.org is actually classroom stuff we're doing within the library class time.
Phenomenal. Rachel, did you have something that you'd like to share?
Well, my classroom is kind of unique since we're STEM focused, and a lot of the things that I've been doing are more student choice rather than just I'm going to stand up in front of the room and shout at you. I don't shout at them, or talk at them. So, for example, we just got some 3D printers beginning of January. And so we were working in Tinkercad. Our kids are one-to-one with Chromebooks, and so we were working with Tinkercad, and I said, why don't you, for your first design, just create something that you think is neat. Start from scratch and build something that you would want to build. So I think reaching and going that way in more personalized ways will help the kids be more engaged. And I had some of my special ed students that are included in my classroom. They were so excited because one of them made a name plaque that said Super Mario Maker, which is something he's super interested in right now. And after it printed out and I gave it to him, he just had this huge smile on his face, like, I made this, and now it's physically in my hands. So that was really exciting.
Powerful. And you're saying something that's actually sparking us to another question, but we're going to have Heather, and then I'm going to go to Valerie to talk about that video that you were speaking about yesterday, if we can move like that.
Okay, 3 things real quickly that I have tried this year is we did a Skype field trip. So our students, can't really get out of Grand Rapids. So we did a field trip down to North Carolina to learn about alligators, and it was just amazing. And it was relatively easy. Another thing that I do weekly is I push in with a cart of iPads. So during my students' resource time, for those who have very high hours, I push into the classroom for inclusion. And instead of just teaching them, I teach the whole class. So in that, I guess since they really have been working with iPads with me, they can sort of shine in the classroom. Because they might be a little bit more knowledgeable in the iPads. But what I have been doing is with the iPads, we create with it. So when we are talking about vocabulary words, instead of just doing flashcards or something like that, they have to create pic collages. And so we do a lot of taking pictures and explaining and using their voice. And so that really is very helpful, I think, to students who have a very difficult time with writing. So using those iPads with more of the creation apps has been incredible for them to show what they know. And then just this year, I was able to get a Dash robot, which is also along the coding. And so the kids, it's just amazing to me that my students who are a resource and they have different disabilities just are so engaged, and some of them really amaze me with what they can do with the coding. So that's just different ways, alternative ways I have been teaching.
Great. I love to hear how you're definitely impacting the students. The other thing that you mentioned, and then I'm going to turn it over to Valerie, is when you talked about coming into the classroom, inclusion. Because I did that for 18 years, understanding that, I would strategize actually sliding in the room and not talking to my special needs students first. Yeah. That I would strategize and move around the classroom, just because when other people were observing, it would sort of have to scratch their head, who is the student with the IEP? Yeah. You know, and I think if we're doing it that way, you shouldn't be able to just look, oh, they're getting all the attention, they must be the one with the need. So we definitely have to think that way. Valerie, you had a wonderful video I know that you were sharing. Could you share some more information about that?
Yes, so with this video, and I forget the gentleman's name that was in the video, but he's like the youngest pilot that did like a I guess it was a fly around the world. It might have been as recent as last year. But he's working with some students out of Dade County, Miami, Florida. And these are the kids that you probably typically would not expect to be part of an aviation school or engineering program. And these kids built an airplane from scratch, engine and all, put it together, and he decided that he was going to fly this airplane. And so when we think about the stereotypes that educators, administrators, community leaders, business leaders may put on certain students, it's disheartening, first and foremost. But I think a lot of times it seems like most of us on this panel here even have some special education background. When we think about how our schools are designed, there's always the special ed wing, you know, where those kids are secluded and segregated from the rest of the building. And we don't expect much out of them. There are outliers. They're the ones that impact our test scores in the building, and it's almost as though people say, hey, we have these kids in our building because if we don't have them in our building, we're going to get into some type of trouble. But we don't provide the resources and the tools, and we don't really expect much out of them. And so just to see this video and how inspiring it was to look at these students that were all minority, you know, they were Hispanic, African American, and to think, wow, the endless possibilities. They could not have gotten that experience out of a textbook or simply reading what it was like to fly a plane or what it's like to build a plane. But for them to actually do and see their teacher get into this plane and fly it in the air and take off, I mean, that's priceless. I don't know what idiots run school systems, but some people need to truly get a clue that we have to stop being the barrier for students. We as teachers have to stop getting in kids' ways. We have to step out of our own insecurities and our own disbeliefs and say, you know what, give them that ball, let them run. They might teach us a thing or two. And so it just warmed my heart so much just to see these kids that people probably said couldn't do. They probably aren't the strongest kids academically, but they were given an opportunity to do something different. And by far, if they were in my class, they all get A's. There's nothing I would have been able to teach them beyond what they did. They've passed the course. Well, and so that was just amazing.
That sounds phenomenal. And Cynthia just put in the Q&A that those students were stoked. You know, and that's one of the things to realize, that when you allow the students to not know where the barriers are, they will actually reach the sky. Some of those things, let's ask this question. So what's some of the ways that you've reached your students in alternative ways that just surprised you and said, you know what, that was a good idea? Because traditionally, you don't get it from the textbooks, but you do get it from the interaction with those students, with their families. So who would like to share for that? If you just give a thumbs up or just kick right in, let's go.
I think, well, in my prior life before I was a STEM teacher, I taught general elementary school, and I was in a K-8 school, and in my 7th and 8th grade language arts classes, we did final projects for a book that we were reading, and to be honest, I don't even remember which one it was because there were so many. But the biggest, I hate just giving a final test at the end. I just think it's bleh. I don't like correcting them. The kids don't like taking them. So I said, fine, we're doing a project. So I left it pretty open-ended, and I said, here's the things that I want you to show me that you know how to do. And then I handed out a list of different ways they could show it. You know, going from a poster project, which I know is not like super creative at all, but it can be, to using, you know, instead of just maybe a paper poster, they could have used Glogster or Prezi or some other technological thing. And I just said, here's a list of all these different tools that you could use. Look into them, pick one, see which one that you like best to present the information that I'm looking for to show me that you learned something from this book we read. And there were some great things I think I still have saved on my hard drive from like 5-6 years ago that I just couldn't bear to delete the file because they were just so awesome projects.
Awesome. Heather, you look like you had to twitch, like you had something that you wanted to share. If not, you can give me a thumbs down and I'll just keep on moving. But
no, I don't know how alternative this is, but I just needed to say that this year we have been using to share our information or share the projects that the kids are using. We're using something called Seesaw, which is a digital portfolio, and it's a way for parents to download it on their smartphones and then see what the kids are doing. So I think that that's, in a way, a little bit of an alternative to the traditional ways. And it's just been really amazing to see that we can actually share the work that the kids are doing immediately with parents. So that's been really amazing this year.
that is awesome. Yeah, Seesaw has definitely been a hot topic that's going on and how people are doing this. Well, we're going to have to wrap it up. So if we can do it in 5 minutes, is that all right if we go 5 more minutes? All right, okay. Susan, did you have something?
Yeah, I think I wanted to say two things. One, our kids just put together their first maker fair, and I don't know how much you guys know about maker spaces or any of that thing, but it's basically the premises is that they've been working on projects, learning how to do circuitry using conductive thread and conductive copper tape, and then things like include that in things like they've made hats and they've made bracelets and they've made there's a lot of things. I won't go into the big long list, but the culmination of that is them actually demonstrating the things that they've learned. And so what we did is invite parents and siblings and whoever, and the kids, I just sort of directed, and they were so excited about doing this whole thing because they were showing off what they could do. And that real life, that's formative assessment if you look at it right. If they can teach somebody else, right? You learn what you teach. So yeah, that was very exciting. We're going to do it again, and I'm hoping that we can do it in other schools if we can get.
Well, I know one of the things that you can do, Susan, is definitely partner up, because those are some of the things that does sharpen your students. You've just given them pride. You've given them some things. I would take, in Michigan, we'd have a student showcase that we would go to the state capitol and lawmakers get to see us. I would always take, quote unquote, special needs students there. And when we would get into things, lawmakers are going around, oh, your students are doing well. Then I'd whisper in their ear, we got special needs students. Can you identify it?
Right, right.
I knew the answer was no.
And we
but I
did
was setting them
too.
up. Yeah.
One of our kids who had been working on building or working with circuitry came to me and said, Miss Brown, I just got my first A on my science test ever. And I said what it was on. He said circuits. And okay, this is a special needs kid, no English at home, and I asked him when I asked him what it was on, he said circuitry, and I started asking him what the questions were, and I can tell you right now, until I started working on this stuff with these kids, I wasn't as smart as that 5th grader. So hands-on is just way. There was one more thing I wanted to say. If
All right.
I could partner up, like you say, and do some Skyping, like Heather was talking about, and have kids teach other kids in other schools, and then have their kids teach our kids something different, how cool would that be? That's just a dream of mine.
It's priceless. That's the thing. Rachel, would you share what you put in the chat over there? I mean, everybody's looking at it and just glancing, but we want to hear the verbiage, please.
Sure. This has been something, it's not an original idea from me by any means, but what I wrote in the chat was that just knowing that the kids' work will be shared beyond the 4 walls of their school, it makes them more motivated to do their best work. Knowing that people from all over the world will be able to see what they are doing gives them it's just like this. If we're in a hangout, if we're doing a podcast together, we want to know that we've got our stuff together because people are going to be listening and watching. It's the same for the student. If they know that their work is going to be out there, they want it to be the best that it can be.
And then when you get to that part, we have to celebrate. We can't be afraid to celebrate the small things because we don't know how small it is to us, but how large it is to the students and their family. So we have to do that more. We have to, when you say you have things stuck on your hard drive because you don't want to get rid of that, it's time to celebrate. If you could find a way to reach back to that student and say, do you remember this? I remember one time, and then we're going to let everyone have just one more statement they'd want to say before we sign off, and then I'll turn it back over to Sarah. I had a student with a speech impediment, and we would record their speeches, but then we would edit it first and then play it. And the student was amazed themselves of how clean they were able to communicate with their classmates because they didn't stand up and do a live presentation. We recorded it. We had the students edit it. I showed them how to use the tools. They went forth, and then and you just saw them just cheesing. They were so prideful and thankful, and classmates like, that was you? Oh my gosh, that sounded great. And so we just had to celebrate those things, and I would get administrators and people to walk through and say, hey, you need to listen to this. You need to check this out. This is one of our students. They're going further. If we're not having technology to make things easier, we're not using it in the right manner. So we're going to go back around. We're going to start with Heather, Rachel, Susan, Valerie, and then we're going to turn it over to Sarah. Just give your one last statement of how it is to be able to impact our students and the family members and special ed as well as the general ed. Heather?
Okay, I just really think this year it's been amazing to impact now, instead of the 20 on my caseload, 130. And that is just with that seesaw and with pushing into the class and knowing that, every student, if every student could have an individual educational plan, like the IEPs that my students have, I think that would just be amazing. Obviously, we don't have enough time to do that or enough staff, but just looking at each student's strength and then also building upon that and also helping them with what they need. So it's been fun.
That would be powerful, that statement right there. That actually be caring about all of the students because no student has it 100% on every level and in every area. So I loved how you put that. Rachel?
I think for me it goes back to knowing and believing and projecting to everyone around you, especially students, that everybody has the ability to learn new things. And the fact, you know, like Heather said, if every kid had their own IEP, if every kid has decisions and choices about what they want to learn and how they can show their learning according to the standards that we have to cover, it's going to make them more driven to succeed in their own work and their own life in the future. To have that belief and show them that you believe that every student has the opportunity to be successful in their learning is super important to me.
That was powerful. What I heard as a recap, if we can strengthen kids in their areas of weakness, they will become stronger students. So that was powerful. Susan. You just want me to sing to you. That's all it is. I've been singing all day at church. So come on, Susan, drop it like it's hot. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. Come on.
Didn't you see my mouth moving? It was just my microphone was but you sing well, thank you. Basically, what we're doing is working with these kids to work together and not to, you know, the big thing about not bullying is one thing, but what we're trying to do is go on the other and get the kids to work as a team and use what each one of those kids has strength in. And I think that basically Heather hit the nail on the head with, working together is what they're going to be looking for in the future employment kind of pieces. So seeing their strength.
That's phenomenal, Susan. You know I always do these recaps over everybody's statement, but encourage versus discourage. You know, that needs to be a lifestyle. And if everybody learns that, then there'll be a better environment totally. So, Valerie.
Absolutely. Be a rebel teacher. You know, don't play by the rules all the time. I find that
repeat that one. That was she dropped the mic on that one, but don't just finish the statement, please.
You know, I think a lot of times when we're playing by the rule books, we're the hindrance. And so once again, it goes back to what Rachel says. Let's make this student-centered. Give them choice. You know, this semester, I didn't give my students a syllabus. I asked them what were the things that they were interested in, what did they want to learn, and as a result, I told them my homework would be to find the standards that I could align to their interests, so that way when an administrator walked in my room and realized we weren't using those dusty old textbooks, I could justify that they were still learning and we were still meeting the standards. So as an educator, if you're not continuing to grow, if you're not continuing to connect with people outside, then you might need to step to the side because we're doing the students a disservice. And differentiation pretty much means that every student has their own individual educational plan. And so we must be rebel teachers. It's time to shake things up in education. It is time to shake it up. So let's do that.
You know what? And because of that, that's why we're going to have to turn the mic back over to Sarah, because that's what Sarah has been doing to give us a platform to really shake up education across the world because of how the educational, I call it Captain Crazy, the way that we do things. I love the idea of having an IEP for everybody. Just think about the staff members. When you come in and say, I don't want to learn. I tell teachers all the time, because that's who I teach now. Be your model student. What would be your perfect student? I want to see it. Because believe me, administrators and teachers are my most special needs people that I work with at all times. Give me the kids, we can do some stuff. But I'm telling you, you get to admins, it seems like the higher that you go, it seems like the slower I got to talk, the dumber I got to do things. And so I'm like, did you have your Ritalin today? I don't know. You know, we can pass out meds, but, you know, if you didn't take your meds, it works for you. Who said I didn't take mine? And that could be aspirin. That's just my disclaimer when I act a fool sometimes. But anyway, thank you guys so much for allowing me to be on this awesome, phenomenal panel. It did touch my heart. Sarah, let me turn it back over to you. Great job of how you do it every time. So I'm muting my mic.
Thank you so much, Ron. Oh my gosh, that was amazing. Thank you so much to everyone on panel. Y'all had so many great ideas, and the Twitter was on fire. Just so many links and so much great information being shared. So thank you all so much for everything that you do. So just wanted to go ahead and close it out. tonight, but please come back next week. We're going to be talking a little something for the teacherpreneurs, so tax tips for the teacherpreneurs. Hopefully we'll see Valerie back next week because she has that teacherpreneur Voxer group, so that would be something great to definitely involve next week and touch on. So and anyone else who's interested, then please by all means just go to bit.ly/tweettalk34, and there you can sign up. And we have a nice graphic created by Rachel for next week to as our whatever they call it, the trailer. So the trailer image created by Rachel. So fantastic, everyone. And thank you for joining us. Feel free to subscribe, bit.ly/EduMatch podcast. So everyone have a fantastic week, and we'll see you next time, same bad channel. Oh, and one more thing. Don't miss the ISTE Digital Equity PLN chat going on this Saturday at 8 p.m. So the topic will be about diversity in educational technology leadership. So check that out. That's sure to be something not to miss. So everybody have a great week, and chat with y'all soon.